Yeah, so today for our podcast today, we're going to talk about when we interact with children, what's going on for us in general in our life can affect that interaction. So there's so much information out there, I find, about children's behaviour and how to manage their behaviour and how to and strategies for managing the child's behaviour, which for me there's a big picture going on in the situation of what's actually happening, and part of that is I feel like we can look at what our side of it is and what's happening for us and what we're bringing to that space with the child and how it affects that interaction. So basically, life is responding to our energy, but children are responding to our energy, and especially because they're so sort of naturally tuned in, they have no filter yet. They're just responding very honestly in the moment, and we've already talked before about being able to hold space for what they're feeling, for their emotions, empowering them to develop some more emotional awareness and intelligence. But also what we could talk about is our own, what's going on for us in that moment. So is there anything you want to add before I go on?
I just remember when we first talked about this topic, I mentioned how I feel like this is a little bit more complex in like a parent-child dynamic because everything kind of snowballs over time. And with different feelings and behaviours and, reacting to different things, this kind of snowballs, and it's a little bit more complex. You can't work out exactly what's causing what.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can explore that a little bit further.
Yeah, that sounds good. So one of the first times I had this realization that my state and what's happening for my life and my energy directly affects the children I'm with was when I used to be in the classroom as a teacher, and I had, as life happens, I had some major events occur in my life, like moving house, losing people, experiencing, a housemate suiciding, and just all a range of things that just happen in life, and it wasn't until I had that major event actually of my housemate suiciding that I experienced, being in states of stress that level of stress I had never experienced before. And I was still showing up to my, daily job as a teacher. And I realized that how I felt on the day would directly impact the kind of day we would experience together as a class. So I'm really grateful for that experience actually, because that is what led me to experience that and being able to access that deeper self-awareness of what was going on. So if I was, if I didn't want to go that day, if I didn't, I had trouble getting started, I had trouble getting out of bed, I had trouble, because this is the reality of what I was experiencing after that event. Then sometimes if I could shift it by the time the day started, then we would have a great day. But there are days where I couldn't shift it, and it was like even the children coming in the morning would kind of be like, oh, like still half asleep and coming in as if their body language, they just wanted to leave. Yeah. And that was what I was putting into the space because of what I was experiencing. And and to this day as well, in my work with children as a nanny, or when I see, family, cousins, or my niece and nephew, it's the same thing applies. So, but the important thing is that that's the reality of life. We have different. It's such a range of experiences and emotions and ups and downs that we experience as natural natural byproduct of being here and having this experience. So I suppose what we could talk about is how to navigate that in that space with children. So, because we're directly affecting one another as well, of course. So, when I was teaching, one of the things that first of all, even acknowledging how I felt was huge. So just stopping and taking a moment to realize, hang on a second, I'm not having a great day today. And that's, even just acknowledging that is huge in starting to shift what happens in that space and how you interact with one another in that space. So that's, and sometimes that in itself is challenging, just acknowledging that you're triggered or you're not quite yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So something I've realized can help is having things that you recognize that help tune you into that. So as soon as things are a bit out of control, oh, I'm triggered right now. Or I'm off my center, or maybe the whole day has been. But even just the moment you recognize that and acknowledge it, it starts to shift it already, I feel. And then from there, I actually used to be honest. I mean, when they were a bit older, these children are 7, 8, 9 years old. So we're not talking about little children, I guess. So it's probably maybe different strategies for different age groups as well. Or even in just the language that we use. But I used to just be fully honest with my students. So I would say sometimes, if I was feeling brave, I would preface the day or the session by saying, I'm feeling a little bit stressed out today, but you know what, that's okay. We're going to get through the day together. And so that they were aware of what was going on, because they can feel it and pick up on it anyway. They're feeling it anyway. And when they're feeling it and it's not acknowledged, it just gets played out. That's what causes them to react and respond, because they don't feel safe when we're stressed out, even, the older ones. So by me acknowledging it, I almost immediately felt less stressed, and they're feeling that as well. And they're aware, because I've called what they can feel happening in the field anyway. I've named it and labeled it, and we're modeling self-responsibility as well. So that's one strategy I used to use, or two strategies: acknowledging it and naming it, so that they're, everyone, the children are aware. And it's also, I feel like it's also modeling them to acknowledge how they're feeling as well, because if we're doing it, then they learn how to do it, and they learn by what we do. So is there anything you wanted to add to that at this point?
Had something and oh no, there it is. Okay. The thought was kind of drifting and then I was like trying to catch it. Yeah, in a way parenting, they talk about the things that you get triggered by, and I think this was more in relation to like when you're parenting, if the behavior that your child's doing really triggers you, then maybe there's something like unresolved, from your own childhood, or something that's happened that's triggering that within you. But they talk about having a listening partner and how important that is. So having somebody you can call up and you just say, do you have the space right now to listen to me? And then just say, oh, my daughter Billy has been hitting me all day and it's making me feel really angry, or something like that. And then you explore that together. Why do you think that's making you feel angry? And then I think the most relevant part of this is that at the end, when you've resolved those own feelings within yourself, the child usually shifts, even though they haven't been involved in the
Mm-hmm.
conversation that you've been having. Because you've shifted it within you, the child feels that and often shifts too. So while you're doing your own inner work, being aware of your own feelings and acknowledging them and shifting them, you're also helping your child to get past whatever they're having, trouble with. Or yeah, I'm not sure if this can be extrapolated to like a classroom or like a nanny kind of dynamic as well. Yeah.
I think it probably could, because it makes sense that because children, our inner child is triggered by whatever's happening in the space, and generally the age of the child is the age of the thing that we're having within us come
Yeah.
up as well. So yeah, that makes perfect sense to stop and consider, to go in and actually consider what's going on under the surface, to come
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's also interesting, like having conversations with other parents and just noticing how everyone's triggered by different things as well. So we're all different, and we're all on a different journey, and we're working through different issues, I guess, different things that trigger us. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've recently been moving house, so that's been interesting. Very stressful. And I feel like a lot of, I don't know, like I feel like a lot of the behavior that came from my daughter was because I wasn't able to spend as much time with her as I usually would, like one-on-one sort of connection time. But one technique I've started using lately, and it's really amazing that the things that come up from this. So before bedtime, because I still lie down to put her to sleep, so I'll say good night and we'll have a cuddle, and I'll say something like you were loved and you were safe and different things like that, whatever pops up. And then I'll say to her, are there any feelings from today that you would like to release now before you go to sleep? And it's really amazing the things that she tells me. Like I wouldn't have guessed that she would have been processing, those thoughts or those feelings from the day if I hadn't have asked. So yeah, I think that's really helpful, because it can also help to, I guess, give you a clean slate for the next day, so things don't keep on rolling over.
I love that.
Yeah. And I think I used to say to her, like, do you need to have a cry to release anything before you go to sleep? But now she's a little bit older, she can talk about it. Yeah, and I feel that's it's really powerful, and for me to understand what's going on for her as well, so I can help her move through it.
And she feels heard and seen.
Yeah, and there's little things that, like, like a little boy at kinder pushed me or something like that, like things I wouldn't have thought about, saying, or she wouldn't have come to me, because they're just little, but they built up.
Thinking even for myself, or for adults, it's something we could do before we go to bed.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Exercise. It's awesome. And I think I've talked about this before, but it's something that I'm still experiencing this year, so I'll bring it up again. So I have 3 kids, 1 day a week, and one's new to school this year, another is new to kinder, and then the little one stays at home with me. And because the 3-year-old is, or the one that's new to kinder is 3, so his concept of time at this point and needing to be somewhere on time is not part of his, it hasn't had to be part of his world. Last year it was only because we had to drop the older one at kinder, so he would be happy to get dressed and go out the door because then he's getting to come back home and play again. We're 2 weeks into the year so far of having drop-offs, and it's earlier as well because the older one starts school half an hour earlier than when she was at kinder last year. So it's all at the same location that we do drop off, but it's just earlier. And the last 2 weeks he's just, because he's, you know, he's in that beautiful 3-year-old phase where it's like there's not a care in the world, you know. He takes his time eating his breakfast. He's really hungry. He wants more breakfast. I'm looking at the clock. They should be dressed by now, and we should be heading out the door to leave. I'm thinking, you know, it's okay because all the preps are late at this point in time. They're still getting into the routine. But I was noticing my own stress, need to be there on time, because I was always late as a kid to school. So that was my own anxiety coming up of not wanting her to be late because I didn't want her to be stressed and have anxiety. But then I realised just because I did doesn't mean she will. It doesn't mean we'll always be late. Still learning the routine. And anyway, it happened again the second week, except he just wanted to play. You know, he didn't want to put his kinder uniform on. He just wanted to play. So I had that coming up again. But she's going to be late. We're going to walk in, and all the kids are going to already be at their desks. That was my own thing, my own thoughts that were coming up. And the oldest one she wasn't even. I mentioned it, and she wasn't even. She was laughing, you know, at him playing. She wanted to start doing my hair. I was like, well, she's not too concerned about being late, and I didn't want to push the 3-year-old to get dressed because I didn't want to add to the. I don't want to make him stressed about needing to be somewhere on time because it's obviously purely his concept of time he doesn't have yet. And anyway, so I tried making him laugh. I tried chasing him and tickling him. And then I tried being silly about putting on his uniform. And then I tried being a little bit firm of, you know, we really need to go now if we want to get to school and kinder on time. And he just kept giggling and running around. I realised I needed to stop. I needed to let it go completely, and which is what I did. I sat down. I let Charlotte. I shouldn't say names. I let the oldest start doing my hair, and then the 3-year-old came over and started doing my hair as well. And I gave it a couple of minutes, and then I said, "Okay, well, after you've put that hair tie in," I went to drop off with beautiful hair. Oh my gosh. Said, after you put that hair tie in, how about we'll get dressed? He goes, okay. And then he went and grabbed his uniform and sat in front of me while Charlotte finished my hair. He got dressed so that I could help him with the little bits that he needs help with. So as soon as I surrendered to let go of my anxiety of needing to be there on time, like you said, it shifts. Yeah. It shifted.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily a strategy to go with every week because it's not okay to be late every week. You know, there's got to be a boundary there sometimes as well. So we talked about next week when I come next Tuesday, I think we talked about it would be a good idea to get dressed before breakfast so that he's already dressed, then he has his breakfast, then he can have a play whilst I help the oldest do her hair and everything. So anyway, that was a couple of little experiences I've had lately that I've learned from and put strategies in place to hopefully I'll see what happens next week.
Yeah, I really struggle with that.
But they're
on time too.
Yeah, and I do really feel like it's my anxiety, and I think because I'm getting, this is probably comes up as a nanny as well. Maybe it's a common thing because it's not, you're getting paid and it's not your children, and it's your job to make sure children get ready and we get to where
Yeah.
we're going on time and all of that. Not that there's not pressure at all from anyone on me for that. That's purely just this is my job. I have to get you there on time, you know.
Yeah.
And that can, if we allow it, that pressure can affect, you know, you want it to be a positive experience opposed to a negative experience. So, you know, in the past, going back to the classroom and even earlier jobs as a nanny, I would let that moment of where you feel like you're not in control, I would take more of an authoritarian, trying to control the system approach. Systematic, trying to control the situation type of approach. And even if sometimes in the moment it would work, it would just loop back around again later anyway with that child, because it's a constant power. It's a power struggle, and in the end, no one wins that. So yeah, it is, and it is challenging when with children that have no concept of time yet. And you know, he's 3. I completely understood. He just wanted to play. You know, I kind of got where he was at. Why do I have to be somewhere on time? You know, I'm running around the house laughing right now. I'm having fun.
Yeah.
What do you mean? What do you mean I have to be there by 8:30? You know. So
Yeah.
do you want to talk?
I was just going to say, I often end up putting my daughter's breakfast in a container and letting her eat in the car, or bringing her toys in and things like that.
Yes, I've done that too. And the novelty of having breakfast in the car can sometimes be like, oh, yeah, okay, let's do that.
Yeah.
That can be sometimes.
I've sort of let go of having the crumbs around. I get triggered by being late as well. I think growing up, being on time was a value for my family, so it was drilled into me that, you know, this is something that is important. And I find that the more anxious and the more stressed I get about it, the more resistant my daughter gets to being cooperative and helpful and getting herself ready for me. Yeah, which is interesting. It's almost like the more I push her, the more she resists.
Yes, definitely. I've noticed that too. The more the more I tried pushing the 3-year-old on Tuesday, the more he just wanted to play. Like the play, it just seemed to feed his need to play, which is probably how he was. Maybe that's how he was processing my stress of getting there on time. You know, he was releasing it through play, through running and laughing.
Yeah.
I probably needed to run and laugh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it was my stress.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so tricky, that one, because when you let it go and you drop into that space where you can be more playful, it usually quickens things up. So it's actually a lot more effective when you get into the car quicker than being in a state of pushing to get into the car against resistance.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. And the playing thing doesn't always work straight away. That's what I found on Tuesday. It used to work like that with him. And it wasn't working. And that's when I realized it's because it was deeper than that. You know, it was my own. As soon as I realized I'm stressed because I was always late to school. I felt it. I literally went, oh, you know, I dropped, my body dropped, my energy dropped. I literally dropped. I sat on the floor and let the oldest one start doing my hair. It's like,
okay. Surrender.
And that's when it,
This is reminding me a little bit of heart math. Have you heard of heart math?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Yeah. So everybody has a magnetic field around their heart, and there's been lots of studies and stuff done around this, but they find that your heart is the first part of your body to receive information, not your brain. And we're constantly like responding to things in our environment and stuff with our heart field. So I feel like with this, I suppose with children, because they're not as, I guess, conditioned as adults in a way to go, you know, straight to their head to process things or think through things. They just feel it straight away. So maybe it has a bit more of an effect on them, what's happening in the environment, and with other people around them, they can pick that up and respond to that energetically.
Yeah. They're pure mirrors because they're mirroring straight back.
Yeah.
What's coming at them without I suppose maybe that's what we mean when we say they don't have filters yet. They're not they're purely responding from the heart. They're not taking it up, you know, they're not denying it and taking it up to the head and questioning whether, you know, questioning themselves and what they're experiencing and what they're experiencing.
Yeah. Yeah, because a lot of the time, if we have feelings, we're encouraged to talk about it, you know, rather than feel it. Or if there's a problem, we're encouraged to think about a solution, and it's always something that's more a mental processing, the way that it comes out. And we have that awareness and the control to be able to hide down the way that we're responding to things, to deal with it later when we've got the time or the space.
Yeah, which is why it gets triggered 10 years later or 20 years later, or because sometimes it tries to come out and we don't recognize it coming out. We just ignore it, we push it back in again and add layers on top. Yeah, it's a journey.
Yeah, so
but that's why it's good to have.
Hey?
That's why it's good to have these tools.
And by doing this work now, like going back, we're helping our children do the work now so they don't have to go back.
Yeah.
Well, not as much anyway. You know, we're not perfect.
Yeah.
We're not gonna, you know, catch every single feeling and thought that comes up for them.
No, and that wouldn't be human anyway, I feel. You know, everyone's, you know, they've got their own journey to go on as well, and we can support them as much as possible and equip them with tools that we wish we had when we were at that point.
Yeah.
And that's going to help them along on whatever their journey is and whatever they need to do and experience as well. All right, well, I think that about should do a recap.
I don't think I have anything else to say. I've just still got that point of how I feel like the parent-child dynamic is a bit more complex.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
relationship to a nanny.
You're a nanny that's, you know, been with a family for, you know, a few years, and you go there, you know, maybe full time or something like that would be similar. But I just feel like having the like, it's always constant having the child there, so you're always reacting to each other. It's probably similar in, like, you know, relationships and things like that as well.
Yeah.
Or with the housemate, or yeah. But I just feel like it sort of it builds up, especially if you don't have that space to both sit down and say, like, I'm feeling this now, and give yourself the chance to release it, which I suppose with the parent-child, it would be the parent listen to the child, and then the parent would go and talk to a listening partner or something like that separately as well. Yeah.
Yeah, because as a nanny, you have the space because you leave the job and go home, and you have the space in between to reset and recharge and process and everything.
Yeah.
And have these conversations.
Yeah.
And equip with some strategies. But as a parent, you don't have, like you said, it's 24/7. You don't have that space. So it would be, and not only that, but your child come from you. So they're exactly what their parent needs for their growth. So it's a bit more, I think it's probably a lot more triggering having your own children to other children, because they've come through with your DNA and your patterning and your history, So
yeah. And it also,
next level.
there's something from your partner or your ex-partner that triggers you that might come up in your child too. So that's an extra layer of complexity, I think.
Yeah.
When you see them reflecting that back to you as well.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Because I had a call.
You kind of went slow motion there.
Yeah, I got a phone call. I had to reject it.
Oh,
Sorry for that.
that's all right.
What was the last little bit you said?
I was just saying, if your partner or your ex-partner, which I mean, most people would experience something from them that triggers them, and often the child will start to reflect that as well in their behaviour and things like that, which adds another layer of complexity.
Yeah. And I think you kind of already answered how to navigate that. You said taking the time to listen to what your child is feeling, making some space for yourself so you are able to have even a little bit of that space. This is where I feel like this has been one of the what's the word, disadvantages of having lost the village and community, because if when we have a village, we would be able to sort of share the load with one another. We could group up the children and share care, and mothers could take self-care days, and so maybe there's a way to implement that, even though we're in different houses and on different properties now. I wonder if there's a way to still somehow create that in order to be able to take that space.
Yeah, just knowing that you have a network and people you can call. But I also think it's important to let it known to people that you're happy to help and you'll be there, because a lot of people have trouble asking for help, or feel guilty if they feel like they're asking too much as well. Yeah.
Especially women. Although it's everyone in different ways. I think we all have trouble asking for help with different aspects of life or different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's important as well. Build your village.
Yeah. Find your people.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for chatting with me today.
No worries.
And I think that probably wraps it up for what we wanted to discuss.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Cool. All right. Thank you.